Happy Sabbath, family.
Hey, happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath, my brother.
How you doing?
Good. We're matching, Edsel.
Look at that. Look at that. We are
Great minds, you know.
indeed. That's what
like.
it is.
Sorry, babe.
I'm right here. I'm really right here. Great minds. I'm like, guys, I'm right here.
Awkward. Hope you guys are doing well. So glad to have you on with us today.
Absolutely.
It's been an amazing past couple of weeks just being on with the two of you. I know I've learned so much. My church members and others online, they've been leaving comments and just showing their appreciation. It has been a blessing, and we're just so grateful for this time that we have with you. Unfortunately, it's our last one. Hopefully, it's not our last one. But we're so glad that you're able to be on with us. For the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about surviving in times of crisis. We've been talking about thriving in times of crisis, and today we're taking a look at not just the couple dynamic in the family relationships, but the children. They're often overlooked. They're often just considered to be resilient. They'll be fine. They'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then they hit their teens. We realize, like, whoa,
they're not okay.
They're not okay. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that you're on to just share with us what God has shared with you regarding how to reach your kid's heart and how to help them navigate times of crisis. I just want to encourage everybody who's on, be sure to leave a comment or question that you have in the comment section so that we can hear from you. If you have a very personal question that you want to ask and you don't want it out there, you want me to ask it anonymously for you, there's a number here for you. You can text your question to this number. I will see it and I will post it anonymously on your behalf. So before we begin, we're just going to pray, and then Adrian, Leilani, I'm going to ask you guys to like introduce yourselves as a family. We've met two so far, but then you can introduce the family. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you so much for this time that we have. Lord, we are grateful that you have stewarded unto us relationships, either now or in the future. You will that we are going to do our best to manage well, to steward well, to care for in light of your love. Lord, we pray that you would bless us, enlighten us, and help us to be better. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Yes. So we've met two members of the Langdon tribe.
Yes.
Go ahead and break it down for us. Who else? Who haven't we seen?
So we have two babies. Well, they're not babies anymore. They're still babies to me, but we have a soon to be 7 next week, 7-year-old boy, Jonathan, and a 4, soon to be 5-year-old Sanaya, who really is 4 and 5 going on 15. And we've been working diligently to make sure that we got a handle on her for the 15-year-old version, because we know that it's going to be intense. So, and then there's one currently in the oven, in the works.
Amen. Amen. So we have 3 here. I'm gonna like force adopt a few kids on you. For those of you who may not be aware, Adrian and Leilani were the choir directors for the Deliverance Mass Choir on the campus of Andrews University. And although they are not claiming DMC as children, I assure you that most of the members of Deliverance Mass Choir from 18 to however old viewed Adrian and Leilani as their surrogate parents on campus. So the parenting experience here is diverse. It's wide here. So we're just grateful that you're here to share with us and to drop some knowledge and some understanding on us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd probably add that, you know, for Leilani, she was also she worked at the Counseling and Testing Center on campus. So she had a lot of 17, 18-year-olds that she was seeing on a regular basis, as well as the dean on campus. So dealing with that. And my initial title, when I first graduated, was home-based therapist. So I just strictly worked with youth and families. So from age 5 to 17, that was my everyday for about 8-9 years. So it's always been an area we've been involved in, been passionate about as well.
Nice. Excellent. So so glad that you're on, and I don't have to share about this. No kids. So
Yes.
yes. Well, yeah. Adults, the church members will get too excited.
Yeah.
If they're watching this. It'll,
Right. Oh yeah. You start getting the questions like, so.
so
Right.
Like,
2
hey.
seconds after you got married, it's like.
right. Exactly.
It's always on to the next stage. The second you get engaged, when are you going to get married? You get married. When are you going to have kids? You have kids. When are you going to have another one?
Right.
Are you done? Are you having more? Like,
Right. Well, we're in park right now. We're nice and we're in park. We're chilling.
yes, you're building a foundation.
Amen.
Good for you guys.
Appreciate it. So, everything else going on, our kids can be easily overlooked.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like we're trying to manage church, school, work,
Right.
the virus, the state of our country, the politics, and our kids can kind of get lost in the sauce. So, what are some things that we should be looking out for, or we should start considering as we are looking out for our children during this time?
Well, I think when we talked about, I guess, what we were going to do for this topic, what we kind of came to was, parenting in crisis, like kind of considering that idea, but also remembering to win their heart. So I think when we were really thinking about what was most powerful and what to consider, is parenting through this crisis and winning their heart. The truth of the matter is that when you think about who this is for, we're thinking about that as well. Who's it for? I don't think this is for married people with kids. This is for single people with kids. This is for married or single thinking about one day having kids. This is for people who are working with, who have an regular influence over kids, or one day might have a regular influence.
Right.
There are your teachers many times spend more hours a day with your children than parents do, right? So you just called us surrogate parents over groups of people that we in no way
Had a
gave birth
biological
to.
connection to.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think it's just, finding that way to say, okay, as a parent through this crisis, make sure that we're also trying to win the hearts of our children, the people that we influence. And if we think about why that matters, for us, there was a quote that stuck out to us, and it was saying that your greatest contribution to the kingdom of God may not be something you do, but someone you raise.
Mercy.
And that was just a thought process, just to really consider, right? It's not the only significant thing you will do, but your greatest contribution might be somebody you raise, not just something you're doing outside of that.
Or I would amend that to say someone you're mentoring, or God has placed in your life, to guide, right? So yeah.
So I would just say, as we talk about things here, both of us have, we have, as you said, we're therapists, we have degrees in this space and have dealt with that. But anytime I meet with a parent, I always start off by saying, I'm the expert in the child space, but I'm not an expert on your child. You are the expert on your child. At the end of the day, I don't know what your child likes for breakfast. I don't know what they had for lunch. I don't know what their favorite color is. I don't know what. The goal through this process is to be able to say, hey, let's give a little space. Sometimes, if the analogy, the fun analogy, there we go.
Yeah.
Too close. So I think just outside of that, give a little perspective and hopefully allow everybody to be able to recognize a crisis, first of all.
Right.
And then do some things to know what to do when in there, so you don't lose what's most important.
Right. And I'm so glad you took the time to define who we're looking at, because I think many church programs looking at children or looking at parenting are skewed towards, both parents in the home, and this the Adventist home model, and that's just not everybody's reality.
Correct.
So this is, like you said, it's for single parents, it's for surrogate parents, it's for older siblings who believe that they're parents but they really are not. It's for all of those people who are able to influence the life of a child. I think that these tools are going to come in handy. If you're a youth leader, you should be watching this.
Yes.
So this is
very
critical.
Yeah. And so, we wanted to kind of touch on some things that we kind of touched on when we started talking about surviving marriage during this time period, because it's very similar, right? Children are little humans, and they're biologically and mentally wired in a similar way. Obviously, they're not as mature. They can't, depending on their stage, they can't think as abstractly, but their reactions, they have the same physiological reactions, but it is sometimes expressed externally differently than it might be for us. Or it's just it's a less mature version, right? So as an adult, if I have anxiety, I may be more irritable or more prone to criticize or be short. A child may throw a tantrum, right? But that's our version of throwing an adult tantrum.
We throw them
So I think, recognizing, it's so important, to recognize that, every child has a unique response to things that are scary, to things that they feel in the home are happening, but are not sure, either don't have the language to communicate that, don't understand what's happening, the complete context. And so it's important to I'm going to touch on a couple of things that you might see in your children, and we've seen in ours with different scenarios that have happened. And things that parents can be looking for that are not necessarily connected to natural development things, right? So, kids are going to go through sleep regressions, and they're not going to sleep as much. They're going to go through a stage where they're scared of the dark and they're noticing shadows, and right. So if it's not connected to those predictable things, or they're sick, right, then it's something to kind of look into. But a couple things that, kids are going to experience when they're going through crisis, or they're sensing uncertainty or lack of safety, is problem sleeping, right? They don't want to sleep alone. They're having a hard time going down for nap time. All of a sudden, your kid's having nightmares all the time, or, they're clingy. They want to be around you all the time. They may not be eating. Headaches and stomach aches or complaints of those are a big indicator of anxiety in kids.
Oh, wow.
That are not you would attribute to, oh, my tummy hurts. Okay, if it's happening consistently or at times that don't make sense, then your child is probably experiencing anxiety, and so they don't know how to communicate that.
Sorry, you said children experiencing anxiety. Where I was raised, you don't have anxiety. They don't have any bills. They don't have a job. What are you anxious about? Right. So kids can have anxiety?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
There are children who are born with a propensity towards anxiety. And you'll notice it very early on. It's sometimes developmental, but a lot of times there certain kids, you put them in a room and they kind of walk through the door like, oh, you want me to do that dance that I was doing at home, mommy? Watch this. Right? And there's the other kid that every time, say hi to your cousin, say hi to Auntie so-and-so, and they're just like hiding behind your leg all the time. You can have a propensity towards one direction or another.
And it doesn't make you good or bad. It doesn't make you broken or better or worse. It's who you are.
Yep.
Yes.
But how you respond as that adult, that parent, makes all the difference.
Right.
Good.
Determines the child's ultimate outcome. But more tantrums, definitely the anxiety, even depression, right? You can see your kids kind of withdraw. So normal activities that they would like doing or, enjoy doing, they don't want to do as much, right? Some kids may experience bedwetting, they may develop new fears. They're now afraid of, going outside because there's bees versus, them just being freely playing outside. So these are some of the kind of common, right, things that you might see when a child's remember we talked about crisis disrupts routine. When a child's routine is disrupted, whether it's via the environment in the home, because, there's chaos and we're feeling anxiety, or just they're noticing, they're hearing, they're seeing things that they may just external responses to that.
I think that's the good jumping off point, right? Like if I was to jump to seeing that all of these things are happening and children are wearing them, and I want to say for sure have It's gonna sound weird to the average person, but I've sat across from 6-year-olds who legitimately talked about wanting to die.
Wow.
Right? 15-year-olds who are scared to leave their room. Right? These are statements that, to us growing up, depending on what culture you came from, maybe it was, he just needs a good whooping, right? There's always the phrase, the belt or the shoes, wherever the case may be. And they're just noticing that for some children there, you can, I'd sit down with them, and after 3 minutes, 10, 20 minutes into a conversation, to watch an 8-year-old break into tears and just keep saying the words, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. Just shows you it's a little bit more than he's hard-headed. That's, yeah. Okay, we don't, just quick example. I don't have time for a story too quick. Okay, I remember I was working in Benton Harbor with, there was this church, a church plant that we were starting there. And there was this group of kids. We had this children's program. We're providing all these wonderful things for these kids. And this group of about 6 kids, man, they just kept on causing challenges. And, everybody kind of labeled them. These are just obviously the bad kids, right? These are just the bad kids, the bad kids, the bad kids. We just got to kick them out. We got to get rid of them. They're always a problem, right? But they always stuck together. People call them a gang, right? Like 8, 9-year-olds, right? And as time went by, I remember before we decided, no, let's just keep them close to us. Let's keep them in the picture. I remember one day they came to an afternoon church service. And I was thinking, they kept coming. They weren't always listening, but they kept coming, right? I remember we sat down and talked to them and asked them, hey, you guys are always together. Everybody's calling you guys a gang, but you guys are always together. Talk to me, what's going on? And I remember he talked and he pointed to his friend over there. He said, see Jimmy over there? And he started telling about Jimmy. And for his story with Jimmy, he's telling that his father came in, Jimmy's father came into a room and watched Jimmy being abused. So he came in and he's being abused on that spot. And that father, like many a father would do, grabbed this uncle and threw him from the 2nd floor window. Then the father ran down the stairs and proceeded to continue hitting this guy who would dare harm his child. Police were called. Father was obviously arrested for assault and battery. And he's saying, no, here's what happened to my child. And he's like, Jimmy, tell him. And standing there in front of his accuser, Jimmy couldn't say anything. He's like, did this happen? Jimmy's just like, and he can't say, this 8-year-old can't say what happened to him. You get what I'm saying? Even to save his father, he can't say it. And without that, this other guy can't ever be arrested, right? So during this time now, Jimmy obviously starts having terrible nightmares. And what was found from this time, and the boy was telling me, he's like 9, 8, right? Has this rough demeanor. And he said, so because of that, we never leave Jimmy alone.
Wow.
And that's why all of them have this hard exterior that they're posing on the outside, because they're like, no, we're going to protect Jimmy. We're going to protect each other. Right? So it's in times of crisis, even some of the acting out behaviors that we see, it's a child in crisis who doesn't have the words to explain what he's dealing with and what's going on. And his routine has completely been thrown upside down.
Wow. Hearing that story and hearing the list that Leilani has just read through us, I hope it's really sensitizing parents, guardians, siblings to recognize that, like you said, it's not just, oh, this person's hard-headed or this person is difficult or they're stubborn. Many times this can be a cry for help, and we can't afford to misinterpret it. We need to be intentional about making sure we understand what's happening with this person, with this child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the question is, so now what? Right? If that's the problem, what do we do? I think one of the first parts, if we're thinking about survival, I think it's setting up, for us, what we find is crucial is setting up a routine and a structure. When everything in your world has been upside down, when things are uncertain, for that time, what children, youth, to be honest, what all of us need, but children and youth, what they really need are just okay, here's how things are gonna go. Here's what you can expect. I know that the unexpected took over, so I'm gonna give you some things you can hang your hat on. Lunch is at this time. School is at this time. We are family times at this time. You can get my one-on-one attention on this day, at this time, in these moments. That doesn't mean those are the only times you can do it, but there are times where it just starts to give them stability that they can now say, okay, I don't know if I can trust everything in my world, but I can trust this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can trust that. I can trust this. I can trust that. I think that's the beginning of the process, starting off with setting up a routine
Absolutely.
that gives them a sense of hope and peace. And
I think that, you know, like you said earlier, I think we all crave security and stability.
Mhm.
And even though having a predictable schedule and being consistent with that, which is important, the consistency and maintaining that.
Yeah.
You know, the reality is not all parents are personality-wise, you know, have that as a strength, right? Routine, or think that maybe value it as much. But really and truly, you know, children need security, so do adults, right? And so routine and predictability and structure provides that sense, especially during a time of crisis, right? Provide that foundation of security. I have something I can stand on, just like for us, right? Okay, I have something I can anchor in.
Yeah.
For kids, it's that routine. So like, for example, you know, obviously for us, it was March 16th, you know, we get an email like, oh, just kidding, school's closing, after hearing from our administrator for school. Well, hey, you know, we're okay, you know, Illinois hasn't shut down schools yet. We're looking good. And like 3 days later, it's like, just kidding, everybody's home, right? So obviously, like, all parents in the entire country world, right, are like, not only do I have to work from home, but my children are home. Some don't have options for learning, right? Some schools are not prepared to do this e-learning. Some are like, immediately your kids are going to be on Zoom and they're going to be on FaceTime and they're going to do all these things. And you're just like, right? So adding to the anxiety of, and, you know, of the fact that, you know, we could all die from COVID-19, right? Like, we now have this reality that now we're all in the same space. And so for us, I had anxiety about it. I'm the more anxiety prone in the family. So, so immediately I was like, what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, the kids are here. How are we going to work? How is this going to happen? And what we turned to was the safety and security of a routine. I'm like, okay, they need to, just like they have at school. We get up at this time, we have breakfast at this time, we change, we go to school, you do this at this time, you do circle time, Bible time, whatever, right? You come home, you have your snack, you do this. So, okay, we need to incorporate that at home. And what it allowed us to do was to limit, right, this sense of this huge change. Already they're, all of a sudden you're not going back to school, you're not seeing your friends.
So now what?
Now what, right? So we were able to kind of immediately, okay, what kind of plan can we put in place that works for us, right? Allows us to get what we need to get done, but also helps them kind of have a sense of stability and structure. And then we brought them into that process, right? So we got like a big race board and we put every hour what we're doing. And Jonathan, our son, loves schedules. From the time he was about 1.5, he'd be like, okay, we're doing this and then this and then this. And what are we doing next? Like, he was just always so, he loves schedules, predictability. So he was just like, okay, what are we doing the next hour? What are we doing the next hour? And so it brought them into the process so that they felt a part of it and had sense of ownership. So now they're the ones that are like, it's family time. What's happening? It's 6:30, right? Like, we need to get on it. And I'm just like, oh,
I'm tired.
Give me 5 minutes, please. And so that really, for us at least, it really made the difference. And, you know, talking to my mom friends, right? Like, you just hear the stories of people of just struggling. Like, I need to get everybody knows I need to get a plan in place. I need to get, you know, a routine in place. But it is hard. It's hard to
get going with.
Right. But it does provide the best avenue for that safety and security that you want your kids to feel, especially when everything around them is chaotic.
That's amazing. As I'm listening to you, I'm just hearing Like I'm seeing God as a parent, and I'm like, oh, so that He put them in the garden, we give them a place, a routine. I'll see you every 7 days. We're gonna have a Sabbath. I'll visit you.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. And then it's like, oh, now you have to leave the garden. So now these are some things to expect. Like, let me give you some clothing. Let me, the ground is gonna be a little difficult, but it's reorienting his children in this space. And saying, okay, this is what to expect. Now that we're in a state of crisis, these are the challenges that are going to come forward. So I said the right thing here. I got it.
Yeah, you just like preaching, man. Like not just preaching. You're like a pastor out here or something. Hey, you know what? I'll even take it a step further. So giving me something to do, yes, all of it, 100%.
Right.
Even further, not letting them. Putting a tree in the garden that they can't eat from, also with love. Giving me 10 commandments that I need to follow was also love, right? There was this idea that sometimes we feel like, oh, my dad or mom won't let me. Oh, that's because they don't love me. That's the initial thought. But when I was working in an area of very low income, high crime, there were many a nights where I might drive home at 9 o'clock. I remember driving home 9 o'clock at night, seeing an 11-year-old boy that I worked with. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing out on these roads? Pick him up. I take him. I'm like, yo, let's get home. You need to be home, man. It's not safe out here. And I remember I drive home and
Speaking of, say hi, Saya.
Every other week
they've been pretty good about.
They have.
But I would just say, right?
Right.
So no, but I would just say the setup. And I see there are a couple questions here that I want to hit, but I say that the setup right off the bat was just this idea that I remember I took him home and I pulled up to the front door and I knocked on the door and I'm like, hey, Miss So and So, like, don't worry, I found him. I brought him home with me, and she was just like, I heard from the back, I heard, who's that? It's like, some guy brought home blah blah blah, and I'm like, and he goes, all right, cool, and she's just smoking on the front, and he stood there, and I went back to my car. He's just like, and he walked back out the door, right? Was he more loved that he had this unlimited freedom? Mm-hmm. He wasn't being communicated. Love was not being communicated to him because he could do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. Love is saying, I'm setting guardrails on here because I don't want you to fall into a ditch. And yes, when you hit the guardrail, it hurts. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I'm doing because of how much I love you. So when you went the God direction, I'm like, oh wow, you can preaching.
Well, I do this sometimes. Just a little. We have questions rolling in now. Let's see. We're gonna get to all of them, even if we don't take them in order. We're definitely gonna get to all of them.
Yeah, for sure.
I see one that speaks directly to your schedule, so I'm gonna start with that one. Okay.
Okay.
Since you've already covered it. How do you make a schedule when you have a preteen and a teen who are trying to find themselves and not wanting to follow a schedule or structure?
Mm-hmm. So this is the challenge in the conversation, right? So now I'm gonna tell you what I'm not going to do, and my clients get mad when I say this, right? I'm not going to tell you what to do, and the reason being is even in your own home, you said a preteen and a teen. So I'm gonna say more than likely, you'll know what works for your preteen may not work for your teen, just like what works for your teen may not work for your preteen, right? So I'll start there, but what I will speak about, or what we can speak about, is a matter of principles. Or things that we've seen be successful with people, and then you cater it for the personality of your child. So how do you make a schedule when you're preteen and teen who are trying to find themselves not wanting to follow a schedule structure? I'm going to say something that seems counterproductive. I believe that everybody wants to follow a structure, wants to exist within a structure. There is safety within structure. There's safety within knowing what's coming next. We'll buck that system, right? Because it's, it feels restrictive.
And teens especially.
Teens especially, they're finding themselves.
It's like part of their development to push against it.
Well, you think about it like this, and this might help this conversation. Everything physically in a teen is beginning to tell me that I'm a man or a woman, right? I can now reproduce. I am now stronger. I'm getting fur where there was no fur, right? Everything now is telling me that I am an adult. Everything except my parents and my society, right? And teenage years are one of the toughest because you're too old to be doing that. You're not old enough to be doing that. You're too grown to be doing that. You're not grown enough to be doing that. So it's literally this confusing state of tension, right? Think in many societies at age 12, 13, you become a man. You're hunting now, fishing, your son such. Jesus went to the tabernacle, became a man, right? But in our society, for whatever reasons, it's 18. It's this number 18. You are now an adult from that date, and now it's 37 or whatever the case may be. But I'd say in these moments, bring them in. Start from the perspective of there is no choice, right? There's going to be a structure. We're setting one up for a household because when there's a free for all, there's usually more arguments, right? There's this, well, can I do this? Can I do this? Well, how are you going to get mad at me today when last week you told me it was okay, right? Without the structure, it increases the chances that everything is up for grabs. So instead, you speak to that part of the growing self who's saying, hey, I want to pull you guys in. What would be fair? No matter what, we're going to have this because I'm the parent. But I want to give you some autonomy. I want you to help me come up with the best possible plan so that we aren't having division here in that scenario. So that's usually what I suggest.
I want to add to that, and you can tell me, since he's worked a lot with teams, we don't have teams yet. But I think one of the things that we've tried intentionally to implement, sorry, you can hear them in the background. Yeah, you saw my eyes. I was like, oh my god. So one of the things that we're trying to implement with our own kids is, I grew up with, you don't ask questions. You are seen, not heard. There's no answering why. And so it was really important for me and for us to be able to eliminate some of that within our kids so that they had the freedom and trust to be able to have that. So we aim to always answer those questions that they have, whether we had an answer or not. And so I wanted to add to that. I think, as a parent, we don't share our hearts enough with our kids. We come in from the perspective of, I'm the parent, this is what we're going to do, and that's it. And you need that, right?
To a degree,
you need to say, hey, this isn't an option. We're going to sit down and we are going to make a schedule for our home because that's what's best for us as a family. But here's why. Here's my heart. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm experiencing. And I don't know if you can, if that would work for a team, but I know using it with my smaller kids, it's worked, believe it or not, for just having them kind of lower their, defenses, whatever their defenses at 7 and 5 are, so.
To the idea of.
So you're telling me, you tell your kids, here's my heart? Like, I'm used to, here's my heart,
Yeah.
Or because I said so, because I'm the parent. So I don't know, if, Adrian, we're going to go deeper into that, but I just want to make sure we really capture what you're saying there in terms of a way that you are, because we're not just talking about kids behaving. We're not talking about giving them a cell phone or iPad and saying, sit still. We're talking about reaching their hearts. And you're saying that you do what to reach their hearts?
You share your heart.
You share your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
I think there's an idea that sharing your heart is a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the first problem. But vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness. Vulnerability is taking off my armor and still going to war. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a greater strength. When the majority of the teens I work with, they believe that are struggling, they believe that their parents don't care. For about 4 years, I worked with the juvenile justice system, kind of doing counseling connected with that for just teens, so with middle schoolers, so between 12 and 14. And remember, we used to have to do this thing where we split the groups into family groups, right? And you'd have the parents on one side and the kids in another room. And you start in a group and you separate them. And I'll never forget the first time I had to do the teens side by themselves. And the parents are on the other side, and I asked this question that, like, because you always want to start with like a softball, like, hey, think about it from your parents' side, you know, come on guys, because we're trying to bridge the gap. These are homes where there's conflict, you know, where earlier someone was talking about preteens and teens who are fighting for their own needs and they don't want to schedule. These are where, I mean, the system is bucked, right? These are kids who are spending nights, weekends out at friends' house at 13 years old and showing up back home when they feel like it, right? My member in this room, I kind of start with the softball and I said, all right, everybody, so let's start here. I know that things have been hard, but before we jump in, before we do anything else, the parent side the week before, I want to make sure I get this. No, it was kids first. Okay, so I go, raise your hands if you know that your parents love you, right? You know that your parents love you. There were 9 kids in the room and 2 of them raised their hands. So now I thought they were just being difficult, but then I go through and they give a list of reasons of all the negative things their parents have done, and their tank of positivity and love and sharing their hearts were empty. Right? So they're like, no, I know my parents will love me because. Cool. Next week, I'm in the parent side and I'm like, okay, how many of you guys, love your kids? Oh no, how many of you guys love your kids? Raise every hand. How many of you guys can say, no matter what other issues I have in my home, I know that my kids love me? And every single hand shot up. In the other room across the hall, they're like, no, I don't believe my parents love me. So the idea of, why do I have to listen to somebody who doesn't care about me? Why do I have to listen to somebody who doesn't love me? And if a child doesn't find love at home, they're going to go somewhere else to find it. Most gangs are offering not just action. Yeah, they're offering acceptance.
Well, and it's crazy. We talked about love being action, right? As within a couple.
Yeah.
And so with even more so with children, they interpret action as love, right? So they can't abstractly think like, oh, my mom says she loves me, she's taking care of me, obviously she loves me, right? But that's why, as adults we end up maybe having issues with our parents or trauma because we've interpreted the things that they've done as negatively towards us, or as being something negative towards us.
Yeah.
And so it is super important to share your heart. And I love what someone commented, they remember their mom being vulnerable with her about her mistakes. That's one of the examples that I can give with my kids and how to share your heart. There's been times where, Jonathan being a little older, 5, 6, he's kind of asserting his authority. He's recognizing that, wait, I don't have to always just do what mom says. Right. And so that was a point of tension in our relationship. And I had to really learn how to respond, not react, because the natural inclination for lots of parents, right, but for me was to react. Yeah. And you're either getting popped in the mouth or we're yelling, we're having a yelling match and he's crying and I'm just like, God, we're doing this whole thing. And like I remember just being so frustrated because I'm like, he's talking to me in a negative way, he cannot be doing that, it's not acceptable. And so we had a moment where he was in his room. I went there and I said, okay, hey, so here's what's been happening. Mommy's having a really hard time because the way that you're speaking to me hurts my feelings. It makes me sad and it's not okay. I'm your mommy. And as much as you're frustrated, you have to respect me, right? And I said, now I don't want to hit you. I don't want to yell at you. I don't want to do these things, but I don't know what else to do. So what's happening, right? So I kind of just left it like that. I'm like, he's 5. I'm like, he's 5. I don't know what he's going to be able to do or not do, but hey, we're going to try this. And it was just amazing to see him kind of process what I said and recognize what he was doing and kind of be able to say, really say, I'm not really sure. He said to me, Mommy, I don't know why I do that, but maybe if you tried this. He told me, maybe if you let me know, right? Okay, hey, Jonathan, I don't remember what the exact phrase was, but there was a phrase that he mentioned that I should use whenever he was doing those things. Yeah. And so I said, okay, can we try that? And Mommy will try not to do these things and you'll try not to do this. He's like, yes, we can. And so we came up in that moment with an agreement. I felt more connected to him. Yeah. I assume he felt more connected to me. And from that point on, it didn't magically go away,
Yeah.
But when it happened, I can step in and say, Jonathan, remember, and I don't know the phrase, it was 2 years ago, but Jonathan, please think about what you're saying.
Yeah.
And he would turn around and be like, okay, right? And it automatically minimized that issue in our home. And I still use it today, right? And I all I do, I'm like, Jonathan, Levi, your words, watch your words, right? He's like, right?
And the statement is, you think about it, right? Like, if you're just like, I'm mad at you. Okay, that's whatever. But parents always like, I'd rather you punish me, but I don't want to hear my parents say I'm
Pointed.
Right? It does something different. They're like, they shared their heart, right? There's that. I'm not your opponent in this. Like, I actually don't have all the answers. I'm not really sure what to do. I just know that what's happening right now hurts me. And then what the motivation becomes for both of you is connecting the relationship. So
sure.
if he's disrespectful to his mom, for example, there are times I come down here and I want to be like, you watch your mouth, right? You blah, blah, blah. Like, I do the intentional stamp down the stairs thing. I want to kind of put the fear of God, like, dum, 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 dum. And I come down the stairs and I'm like, come here. And he's like, and I remember I sit here and I'm like, hey, the way I hear you talking to my wife really cut something inside of me. Like, this is a woman that I married, that I fell in love with. For me to sit here and have you talk to her, it does something to me that really, really hurts me. It offends me. That's tough for me. And like, I'm wanting to get to the point where think about how that the two of you feel, such and such, how it feels. And by then he's just like, right? And it's that. It's so much more than if I just said, go to your room, or timeout, or spanking, or at that moment, it's kind of just like, wow, not only did I hurt my mom, but even my dad is sitting here just like, wow, that was offensive to even him. That hurt my relationship with both of them. They still love me, but it hurt us. Yeah. So I've got to work to mend that.
Especially if the goal is to raise children that you want to maintain a mutual respect, as adults, right? You want to have a good relationship. You want to have mutual respect, and you want to build trust, right? And so that definitely for sure.
Yeah. Could I just speak to that one statement? I think that's our flaw. I think most of us are trying to raise good kids instead of raising impactful, spirit-filled adults. And that's really, we're not training you to just make the name on the back of your jersey look good, Team Langdon, and that's what it's been. You're a Langdon, you better don't embarrass me. But instead of it's like, no, then it's all about me. Be good for me. No. Be good for you, because here's where I want you to be. Here's what you can be. The options are endless. Help me, help you, right? Help you get to where you need to be.
I love it. There are questions. I don't want to get there, because the comments are rolling and I don't want to lose them.
Okay.
Let me see. Here's a two-part question. Well, actually, let's do this one first, and then we'll do the two-part question. What happens when you make a promise and change them because you get tired? What do you do? That's a knowing laugh. Go ahead.
Well, so in our household, even though I predicted the structure, I am not as consistent, and I've struggled with that even since they were little, right? I'm like, oh, they're just cute. That was so funny. He's like, Adrian is much more like, okay, this behavior is going to lead to this. It's going to lead to that. It's going to lead to that. It's probably why he works with kids.
Of course, because I work with kids.
Because you work with kids. And so same thing applies. We were laughing because this has been an ongoing conversation recently in our home, because I will say something to the kids, right? Like today we told them we were going to, this week I was like, oh yeah, we're going to roast s'mores. Like, they've been asking about s'mores. So we're going to roast some s'mores after, on Saturday, right? And I keep walking. And Jonathan, my daughter is much more like free spirit. Jonathan is like, Mommy said that we were roasting s'mores, and it has to happen. This is a promise.
That's what you said.
Right, it's what I said. And so what happens is on Saturday, like if I haven't had time to buy the stuff, if I'm tired, I'm just like, oh, we'll do it tomorrow, right? And Adrian is the complete opposite. Like, if he says something, he could have had 48 hours of no sleep. He could be dying, okay? He could be dizzy, lightheaded, like about to pass out. And he's like, no, I said we're playing soccer. We'll play soccer. Even if it's 20 minutes and I have to give everything I have for 20 minutes, we're going to do that because that's what I said. And I'm just like, it's going to be all right.
Even if it's, listen, okay. So let's speak the truth. It's not easy. So obviously. But it is that. Like, it's a statement. In our conversation, she's like, I didn't make a promise. I just told him we were going to do it.
I promised that we're going to do sport.
I didn't pinky. We didn't lock fingers or anything. It doesn't really count to me.
That's it.
I just told him we were gonna. But and the thing is, the kids corner you in that position, right? They're like, hey, can I? And you're like, okay. After we have dinner. And that moment, you're just like, I just need space to get through. So after we have dinner. But it's like, you said after you have dinner. They don't hear like, well, it wasn't a promise. Like, what does that mean? Like, to him, he's just like, no, you promised. You said we were going to. So we expect that. And here's what I'd say. Even if you're tired, I think the response is this. What pushes me is it builds my relationship with them. It builds our relationship. It builds our trust. So
that's a big one.
So my thing is, fine. I said I was going to play soccer with you, and she said 20. Praise God that she gave me that. When I'm exhausted, if I said that we're going to play, we'll play. And for 3 minutes, I'm going to go hard. Like, we're sweat. We're going to push. And before, I'll tell him, hey, look, because, there's no limit to time spent. Like, kids aren't just like, oh, it's been 30 minutes of play. I'm tired. Let me go in and get a lemonade and some iced tea and relax. Like, no. And the second you're done, the kids, no, it's about quantity. They're never done.
Oh no, right.
So for us, it's almost setting it up and saying, hey, if I said we're going to play, we're going to play. And I am going to, but look, I can just give you 10 minutes. And they're like, oh, okay. And for those 10 minutes, go hard. Give everything. And what we've noticed is after that, when it hits the 10, you're like, all right, hey, all right, tell your daughter, your son, hey, I need a break. And they've been like, okay, I asked you for something, you gave it to me.
We're good.
Fine.
And it was quality. That's what I meant. It was quality. I mean, there's been times where initially, I know I've done this. I'm like, okay, mom is gonna give you 15 minutes, and I set an actual timer on my phone. Like, we're setting a timer, and then it's it. 15 minutes, and we're good. But that predictability again allows them to still, and then we.
Blood covenant is right.
Yes, listen, but it allows us. It lets them know what to expect. And then it gives me the freedom to say, okay, I can push for this much. Yeah. I can do this. I am tired, but I can push for this much. And then you are fully present, right? It's not like, 15 minutes and you're on your phone, you're answering calls. No. 15 minutes of fully present time that pours into them. It invests in them. Mm-hmm. And the trusting is huge because I've seen it, personally, like, because I've struggled with being more consistent with our kids and like, okay, so I'm not a morning person or a night person. I'm both. I need to sleep for at least 12 hours.
You'll mess your sleep.
No, I don't mess
You're good in between. You're
right.
great in between.
So it doesn't matter what time of day it is, what time of night it is. Like, just it's rough. So, in the morning the kids would be like, "Mommy, are you coming?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'll be there. I'll be there in 5 minutes." And then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and I'm still struggling to get out of bed. And so eventually, so they would go. It's kind of sad. They would go and hide because Mommy's coming in 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes later. They're like, I'm dying of, they're dying of heat exhaustion under their blankets. And I'm chilling, I'm struggling to get out. I'm like, Lord, I need help. Give me the will. And, but what eventually started happening is they stopped trusting my words because I wasn't following through. So I was still coming. I just wasn't coming when I said I was. Yeah. And so it actually started building frustration in them. I started having harder time in the morning with them. As a result, and I learned this through talking and processing and trying to, navigate that. But I would have a harder in the mornings when he gets them for school, bro. It's like boot camp, right? Like it's like you don't hear the kids. They are just like, eat breakfast, do this. It is a breeze. For me, I was struggling. I'm yelling at them. I'm frustrated. I'm losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And then I realized after kind of like, what is going on? What's wrong with them? Because that's what you think as a parent. I'm like, there's something happening with the kids. Something must be happening.
Did anybody hurt you at school today?
Right, like is the teacher harassing you? Like what's going on? And like we forget that it's me. They're reacting to me.
Right.
I'm reacting to everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and they stop trusting my words. So now when I say, hey, we have to go, they can't trust that. So they're like, I'm gonna just take my time and put my shoes on because mommy always says it's time to go and we never leave, right? On time. So it's so important to really push ourselves as parents to do what we said we we're gonna do. And that's hard coming from me, okay?
Yeah.
Because I struggle with that in our household.
Mercy.
And as she talks about it, like acting out behavior would be example, right? There's and although she presented this way as if I always, the answer is no, I don't always, but I probably it would happen more often with me. But I noticed it in like for example, morning. So let's say she's like, hey, mommy's coming in 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. And this is not a guilt thing. It's something I learned. I noticed it for myself. It made me feel guilty, right? It's that. It's like 5 minutes, and they come back in 10 minutes, like, where are you? And you're like, oh, what's wrong with these kids? What do you think about the fact that like he's coming, and they all went and they laid down, and they're like, mommy's coming in 5 minutes. How much time? 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Okay, 1 minute. 0. Poppy's coming. Poppy's gonna be here, and it's like from that perspective,
Yes.
that part it did affect them.
Yeah.
So now what happens in the morning? It's, hey, mommy, and this was happening with me on her morning. Sometimes you all day, mommy, time to get up. And she's like, all right, I'll be there in 5 minutes. They're like, we want you to come.
Right
Are you
now.
coming? Come right
on.
now. Come. And they're grabbing her. So most of us just give me like 2 minutes to catch my breath. That's all she really wanted.
Right.
But now they're like, no, because
I can't trust that.
so like, well, you gotta come now. And they're climbing on her bed and they're grabbing, they're spilling water, right? Like, so the morning starts, we were like, I don't need time. Like,
So that I'm tense the whole morning.
of course.
And it wasn't until, I was able to shift that and kind of be more direct, like mean what I say. All right, we're going to take a bath and we're walking them to the bath and we're doing that. It made a huge difference for me. But I had to struggle with that. So yeah, no, that was a long answer to that question. Sorry.
No, but that's great. That's great. I mean, I know that this is about parenting and for kids, but I'm over here. I'm in counseling right now. I'm starting to connect some dots as to why I am the way that I am. So
True.
Appreciate it. There's another question here. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say there was another question. Yeah.
Right. It's a two-parter. So we'll read it together. It says, my son is 10 months old, and one of my greatest fears is having someone other than my husband watch over him for an extended period of time. COVID shut down and afforded me the opportunity to care for him. How do I balance my fears of the harm someone may inflict on him and trusting in God to watch over and protect him? That's a great question.
So, I mean, that, yeah. So, oh man, that's a hard one because I think, when I always say this, when I birthed my children physically, spiritually and emotionally, they came with a side of guilt and fear and tension, because you don't recognize how much fear you can have as a parent for something until you birth a child that cannot protect themselves, that is completely innocent, that has not been harmed. And so I resonate with this question because I struggle with this tension a lot. Not saying you don't, but I think that it is a constant, for me, it's been a constant need to surrender to God. I don't think that the fears are ever going to go away. I don't think they ever go away as a parent. That's the reality. And so there is no magic solution to that. I think that your job as a parent is to make the best decision that you know and you can within the resources and the space that you have. And then we need to be praying for our kids all the time. You need to be surrendering that fear and that anxiety to God, because at the end of the day, we have to trust that He loves and cares for them more than we ever will. Yeah. And so one of the things that I started to do, because especially with COVID and everything else, right, there's this heightened anxiety and fear about everything. And, especially for my kids, one of the things I started to do is to recognize that my fear towards someone hurting them or losing them hear this, because this is hard. What was hard for me, so I'm assuming it might be hard for some people. Losing them has less to do with their life and more to do with mine. Meaning that it is about the fear and the hurt that I would experience as a result of seeing someone do something to them. And it discounts what God may need their story to be. And it also discounts the provision that God would have in place to help heal those wounds, right? So I discount all of that. When I am afraid for my kids, I say, oh, I'm just like, you just think about the hurt and the pain they're going to go through and how you take that on as a parent. Instead of saying, no, God, if God is able to get me through the stuff he's gotten me through, right? Then I have to believe that he will help with my help and my God, my prayer and all that. He will help them get through what they have to get through. And so I don't think that our stance as parents should be to help to avoid or keep them from hurt and harm.
From all hurt.
Right. Or to believe that the fear will disappear. But it's about having the faith to place them in the hands of someone who knows who knew their beginning and knows their end, and someone who can help, who we know can help guide them through that to healing. So no matter the outcome. And that's hard.
Yeah. I'll just say this, just in case anybody hearing that or whoever presented the question, in case you might think for a second that
it is
what Leilani said was easy or flippant. Yeah, there you go. I think I don't think what she was saying, I need you to know how hard any of that would be, because I don't think what she was saying was, let him go, get hurt, we'll see what happens.
No.
And the reason why I need to be careful, the reason I want to be very specific about that, because it could sound that way. In our household, you are the, from our 1 month old can't sit on somebody's lap.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right, so that's the thing. Like that, I want to be careful about the conversation we're having. I mean, in the point where it's not just like, hey, well, just hopefully things work out. Like in our household, I grew up in. I'm an only child, but my community was my family, and I've never personally been taken advantage of or harmed by my community.
Right.
So I have a lot of brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles, and I spend the night at somebody else's house. I don't know, since I was like 3, right? And I was 5 years old. We used to think at the end of AY, like, how can we convince our parents to let us stay at so-and-so's house? How many sleepovers did you have growing up?
0, till I was about 18.
Okay, when are you comfortable with our kids having
Never.
sleepovers? Okay, so then I'm not in the same boat. I'm actually more comfortable with my kids having sleepovers, but I want to be careful that on her side, when it comes to protection, right now she's still she's in the boat of like, if I haven't had extensive conversation with somebody and I don't know you almost close to inside and out, I don't know how comfortable I am with you around my child, right? She's that person just across the board. So I want to put that. I think the heart of what she was mentioning was along the lines of, you can never fully protect your child from hurt and harm. And there is a difference between providing safety and smothering. Right? There's a difference between, there are a lot of things, and this is probably not very specific to a 10-month-old. So maybe start there. As a general concept, there are a lot of things in our lives that we're like, this made me who I am. And then we spend the rest of our lives trying to protect our children from going through any of the things that made us who we are. The idea is this. Our children are a gift that God gave us, but they're His, right? They're His first and foremost. No matter how much you care about your child, God cares about your child more. And that may be tough to swallow or believe, but that's just a fact. And I think it's starting with that premise, and it's what we believe as Christians, right? For us, where we stand, no matter how much we love our children, no matter how much we would cling to it, that God cares about them more. So I think the statement she's making is saying, the statement we're making really is, start by saying, okay, God, what do you want? Not just necessarily, okay, what can I do everything to protect them? Because there's limits to what you can do outside of just staring at your child 24 hours a day, right? Even at night, you know what it is. If you have a 10-month-old, you know what it was like in week days in it. Week one, you're like, right? It's like there's danger.
Yeah.
24/7, right? So it's that part that's like for you, it's submitting your child first
To God, yeah.
to God, and then moving from there, as opposed to saying, "What can I do first?" And then when I have nothing left, God help me.
Absolutely.
It's saying first, who do you want to take care of my child? If it's me, I need you to help me provide a way. If it's so and so, I'm gonna need you to work that out and work that away. But it's saying this is your child first.
Yeah.
Help me first. Help me follow in the path and the plan that you've set for the child that you love way more than I ever could.
Absolutely.
So that's I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I track it. I'm like Frederica. She wrote, she said, I don't even have kids and this is me. And yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like with you, Leilani, no sleepovers, none of that stuff. And to know that you're that kind of person and you just shared that kind of answer, it just shows the journey that you must have gone on. God must have taken you. Yeah.
Still on. And I think, I think everything that we share isn't gonna apply the same for everyone, right? Because everybody has a different story, a different perspective, especially with parenting, right? But I think that for me, it was key. It's been key, especially in heightened periods of fear, which are natural, to surrender to God first, right? And to recognize that I have to surrender my kids to Him first. And then I also, as an adult, need to manage my own feelings and anxieties, right? And so I think if we can do that, if we can learn to do that effectively, not only does it help us model that to our children, but it also helps us keep this tension that we're going to feel as parents of fear and God, right? Trusting God and having fear for, our kids, which is an action.
Exactly. And even if the journey isn't the same for everybody, the fact that you started where you started and you are now where you are is encouraging to Isabel, for her to see that God can bring you along. He will bring you along.
Absolutely.
So that's a blessing. That's a blessing. We've been answering questions for a little while, but I don't know if there's something that you had on your agenda. You were like, want to make sure we're covering this in terms of reaching our kids' hearts. I love the nuance that you guys are sharing in terms of like sharing your hearts and what happens when you take off your armor, but you still go to war, right? You don't attack in the same way. You don't attack at all, right? So now their defenses have to drop, and now they have to hear you. Anything else that you wanted to cover in regards to reaching your kids' hearts?
You talk about the personal struggle. I don't know if you mentioned that, but just the idea of managing your own.
Yeah, so I think I touched on it for a second. I think it's important for us to recognize that, I think I've heard this phrase as a parent. I'm sure other people have. You got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else, and that is easier said than done. But it's the reality. And I think that our children, our kids specifically, but kids in general, they model our behavior, right? Yeah. Not only do they model it, but they can sense what we feel and what we're displaying via that, right? So if we're feeling fear and anxiety, we react out of that, right? Yeah. So it's why, you can say something to your child and they're like, but why? And you're like, I don't know, I just don't want you to do that, right? And that's not necessarily, it doesn't mean you're going to have an answer for everything, but that's sometimes coming from a place of anxiety and fear that you yourself as an adult are not having processed to know, well, why am I really scared about this thing, right? Why am I really scared about, not letting them sleep over, right? And I think that it's important that as kids, and my kids are looking to reassurance for me and how I deal with things, I need to manage my own stuff so that I can model how to manage it for them, because they're going to have to go through that, right? And then also it allows the home to also be a space that is not filled with anxiety or children who are acting out because they're sensing your anxiety, right? So I've experienced that where my kids, like when I'm frantic and I'm trying, my brain is everywhere. I'm trying to leave. I'm late. I'm grabbing all these things. I've seen my kids react to my response to my own, anxiety and feeling chaotic and feeling frantic.
Yeah.
And they're more difficult at that point, right? Because there's not a sense of, they can't place that. Why is mommy acting that way? They don't know, right? They don't have the language for it. Something I wanted to say that I think is important, that it's helpful if you can apply it with your kids, is helping them from really little, giving them language to verbalize those things that they can't understand fully. So we always learn with kids, it's like, feelings of happy, sad, mad, right? Happy, sad, mad. Those are the main things. You have the smiley face, the sad face, and the angry face, right? But emotions are so much bigger than that, And so I think, it was important for us, and I'll just speak for ourselves, it was important for us to give them more language. So, my 4-year-old the other day, 2 weeks ago, I told her she couldn't have something, and she's very strong-willed, and she just stomped her feet, and she's like, "Mommy, I'm for real frustrated," right? Because she didn't get what she wanted. However, I can now use that and say, "Oh, she's frustrated."
You can speak to frustration.
I can speak to frustration and not to anger, which is what she would have displayed without the language. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I would have spanked her, or I would have, we shouldn't spank our kids, but I would have, sent her to timeout or something like that. Instead, I was able to say, "Mommy, I'm sorry you're frustrated, but I told you that these are the boundaries. You cannot have a snack till this time," right? Yeah. So frustrated, happy, you obviously happy, sad, excited. Sometimes kids overreact because they're excited, not because they're upset or because something happened, right? So I think it's important for us as parents to kind of use the extent of the language and not be afraid to do that, because sometimes we think, they're too young, they don't understand. No, kids understand. Kids, they get it, and they will get it eventually, even if they don't get it in the moment.
Absolutely. There are grown-ups that don't have language to talk about their emotions.
Yes.
They're just,
that's the truth. Yeah.
The majority of angry men I run into who come to me for anger management are anxious. But men aren't allowed to be anxious. So they were never given language to use. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying men aren't allowed to be anxious.
Right.
Society says that men can't be, or they were taught big boys don't cry, or don't be scared. Oh, you're being a punk. You tell boys you're being a girl if they're scared to do something. Right? So that means fear can't be attributed to my masculinity. I can't be a man and be scared at the same time. Right? That doesn't even make sense. Jesus was literally sitting in a garden sweating blood. Then they have the, now I forget the name of the condition that they speak about, but it comes through times of high anxiety, right? So but high anxiety and stress, but I can't say, and even there, I can say stress, but if I said Jesus had anxiety or had feelings of anxiety, everyone kind of be like, well, that's sacrilegious, right? Right? He can be human. But I'm saying we don't control what comes up. It's your response to it that you have control with. Like the fact that Jesus can have an anxious feeling, the fact that we're like, no, you can't be God, you can't be Jesus, God, man, my savior, and have feelings of anxiety means that it's bad to have that feeling.
Boom. And he can be depressed.
No, he can't. He can't, because you can't be Jesus and
feel sad.
But anyways, we'll get down on a tangent that'll be tough to come back from. But I will I will definitely say just that language is really important from an early age, and it's tough. It means you have to sit down them with it. So if I was to say a line, deal, don't dismiss. Deal with the emotions, don't dismiss them. Deal, don't dismiss. When they're like, I'm scared of the dark. Don't say, hey, you've been here all the time. Stop it. Stop being silly. Go to bed.
There's a nightlight.
Right? When like, I'm not hungry. No, you think about it. I'm not hungry. Yes, you are hungry. You know, easy. Or I'm hungry. No, you're not hungry. You just had a snack. Right? Fine. Sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes I get it. But when our common answer is always, no, that's not how you feel. No, that's not how you feel. They grow up questioning if they have the ability to know how they feel, and they learn that their feelings and aren't valued. The feelings, thoughts, expressions, none of them are valued. So then now they get silent. And we now feel that silent children are content children, but that's not true. Silent children are just children who aren't speaking. They can be happy, they can be sad, But that doesn't mean that because they're not it was our 4th day or 6th day in quarantine that Leilani, she's a higher feeler, right? So a higher emotional IQ, right? I've learned to use different language as opposed to be, you're too emotional, right? She has higher emotional IQ, which also means she feels deeply. So she kind of felt like, I think the kids might be struggling. They're out of schools and such. I'm like, babe, that's your stuff. You know, deal with your own stuff. You look how happy. Look, the kids are fine. They're fine. Have you heard them complain about anything happening? And she's like, yeah, I know, but it's got to be tough. And I'm like, you know, for me, I'm like, the kids aren't complaining. You know,
everybody's fine.
Everybody's fine. And she sat down. She's like, hey, how are you guys doing with the quarantine stuff? And in my mind, I'm like, oh,
while we were playing outside.
Here we go. And we were playing outside. And Jonathan, what did Jonathan tell you?
Yeah, like we were playing outside and we had a moment where we were just sitting and I kind of said, hey, so how's, you know, what things have you liked or what things you like or not like about the change that's happening with you being home? And he's like, actually, you know, I've been sad. I miss my friends. I miss school. I miss, you know, going swimming. He was doing swimming lessons. I miss swimming. I miss going out to eat together. Like he just started talking, right? and I'm like playing with the little card, like, don't look at him. Because I know like once I start going like this, like he's gonna be like, oh, this is awkward. Like I'm just gonna shut down. But it allowed us to have that conversation. I would have never really understood what he was missing. Because in my mind, you know, he's playing outside, he's getting to wake up, he's quiet, nothing's indicating to me. Yeah. Nothing's a big indication to me that something was wrong. But it also gave us an opportunity to now talk about, well, what do you like, right? So it wasn't just about
how can you cope?
Yeah. So what things are you liking about this? Mm-hmm. And that was a really beneficial conversation for us.
At nighttime for us, fear of the dark, when that first came up, you know, like I'm scared of the dark, and I'm like, here's a nightlight. It's like I can't see anything, and I'm like, what do you mean? Can you see me? He goes, yeah. Oh, then you can see, right? That's that was the initial response. And I remember then late at night, although it's tough, you know, at 1 a.m. when someone wakes up and they're saying they're scared of the dark. Remember I sat for a while. Okay, here's an example. He kept saying, something's in my eye, right? I remember the first night we took him to the bathroom, looked in the eye, put water, such. And he must have been 1.5, 2 years old. 2 years old. Yeah, 2.5, 3 years old. And he's just like, something's in my eye. And he kept saying it. And like, so the temptation at first was to be like, stop it. Like if it's growing up my Caribbean home, like, stop your stupidness, ain't nothing in your eye, go to bed, right? Yeah, eye clean, go to bed, close your eye, and you won't get anything in, right? It's kind of, that's the statement you're gonna get. But at that moment, I remember saying, well, one day, just out the blue, okay, middle of the night, but hey, bud, well, tell me, what's in your eye? I don't know, something's in my eye. I go, well, what's in your eye? I don't know, like, I'm seeing different things. And I'm like, seeing different things like what? I don't know, things that were scary. And then after our conversation, I realized, oh, he's having his first set of nightmares. But he didn't have knowledge
or language
to express that. So all he knew was he's seeing something when he closed his eyes, so he was scared to stay in his room, right? So he's saying, oh, there's something in my eye. What he meant was eventually something in my mind.
Yeah.
So from that, I remember then kind of think, okay, what's somebody having when their thoughts are overwhelming them? We went back to the room. First, I have him express it all. So get it all out instead of like stop and go back to bed. And it's literally, when you're struggling at night, when you're having your dreams, it's your subconscious now processing thoughts. Mm-hmm. So for you to tell somebody like, keep it all inside, go back to bed. Well, all right, I'm gonna stuff it down, and my subconscious is gonna terrorize me, right?
Right.
So instead, all right, sit down in the toilet, and I'm just like, huh? And he goes, and then after they came, and I'm going, and it came, and then the monster came, grabbed me, and I was scared. I was alone. I couldn't find you. I'm like, oh, that's too hard. Okay, all right. And then once he finished, I go, is that it? Anything else? He's like, yeah, that's it. Obviously, I wouldn't let it go on for 20 minutes. No. We're talking 60 seconds for what he can recollect. We head back to the room. He's like, I saw that comment. That killed me. That was allergies. It might be. I can't speak to your situation. I won't. Every situation is different. But we sat in the room. It's like now he's expressed. He's gotten it out. So now, because there's something about getting something out. The monster under the bed is crazy. It's terrifying when you don't look directly at it, right? But when you look under the bed, you're kind of like, oh, that was a pillow. That was just my stuffed animal. Oh, that's not nearly as scary. So we sat down. So first listen. Then for him, kind of told him to breathe. Yes, we taught both of our children.
We're therapists, like you can't help it.
Taught both of our children deep breathing before they were 1, right? So literally, just when they're early on, before they can speak, you just into your nose, out to your mouth, and you can do that for your 10-month-old. Yes, your 10-month-old can deep breathe. Start it off as a game, like just take a deep breath with mommy, like. And if you do that when if you do that early on, when they're stressed, they can use that same tool, which is scientifically proven to lower stress. So anyways, you take a deep breath, we pray, and then here's the language. Use the place he's in. He's saying there's something in my eye. So now we're saying, hey, I don't want you to be afraid. Let's do grounding is the technique. Let's ground yourself. So first, look around the room. What do you see? Where are you? In my bedroom. All right, what's above me? My bunk bed, where my sister is? Okay, what's over there? My dresser. What do you see there? That's my lamp. Who's in that room across there? Mommy and Poppy? All right, just grounding. It takes him into the here and now. It makes him feel, okay, I'm okay. And then we said, now we're saying, okay, now let's put something in your eye. What do you want to put in your eye?
Something else.
Right? Let's put something, what do you want to put in your eye? And he would kind of go, what do you mean? I go, you can put anything. Now you know the things going on, you can put whatever you want in your eye. And we're like, I go, do you want to think about maybe a bike? Riding your bike? You rode your bike today? He goes, yeah. He goes, can I do it with his friend Simeon? With Simeon? I go, yes. I go, what color is the bike? He's like, green. What color is Simeon's bike? Blue. Okay, where are you guys riding? And I'm like, keep your eyes closed. And in the moment, he's literally creating a dream. And it empowers you. Instead of feeling like everything's out of your control, he can now say, I have the control to put something in my eye. So now he gets nightmares sometimes. He'll come and he's like, I'm scared. I'm like, okay, pray, tell the story. All right, what are you gonna do? And he'll give the list. I'm gonna do this, I'm put something in my eye. I'm like, good job. Sounds
or even
good.
sometimes now what happens too is like right before bed, like, mommy, what should I do? Because now we've communicated the language. Oh, this is dreaming. This is what happens to your brain. And so he's like, okay, well, mommy, what should I dream about tonight? And so they're not even getting up as much at night with dreams, right? They're just like, okay, what do we dream? And I'm like, okay, let's dream about this. Let's dream about this. Or what did you do today that you want to dream about?
Yeah.
And so even before I get out of the room for the bedtime routine, they already have that, what they, the good stuff of the more positive thoughts in their mind. So it does, it's not unrealistic to do. It just takes that initial work, just with everything, even when we were talking about marriage, you have to put in the work, right? You have to put in that initial work. And then once that initial work is in, then it's easier, right? It becomes easier to manage. So
love it. And all of this without just trying to manage behavior. You're delving in, trying to figure out, okay, what's happening with my child. One other thing I'm also hearing from you is that our personal development translates directly over to how we parent. The time we learn to figure ourselves out and to learn our own emotions and how we process, that's going to translate to how we deal with our kids. And the other thing I'm hearing is that we shouldn't just dismiss or say, oh, they don't understand what's going on, or they can't understand, but that we should be the first to start challenging them, to give them language, to help them understand and process what's going on. So this has been gold. One more question. We never got to like when the passion fades, because that can happen with like the kids and in the mix, or just in marriage in general. I don't know. All right, so this is what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to answer this question really quick.
For sure.
If you have anything on what do you do when it seems like the scheduling of life, the conflicts, everything else is causing the marriage, like you're great parents, but the marriage part is suffering in response to either the parenting or crisis or stress. What do you do? So there's this one question. Last time you talked about solving conflicts in our marriage. How do we do that effectively with kids around? Do you put it off till they go to sleep, or do you do it immediately?
Generally for us, we depends about the level of, when you say solving conflicts in our marriage, it may be a little different than having a disagreement. So I don't have a problem with having a disagreement in front of my child because it shows them.
We're modeling, right? We model. You want to model everything in a healthy way, obviously.
But I'd say the second I start to realize that we can't do it healthily, right? I'm getting more and more frustrated, and there's somebody coming inside constantly cutting me off in the middle of my.
Mommy, I need this. Mommy, I need that. And you're just like, it's making you even more frustrated in the conversation with the couple.
I'm trying to make this killer point, and right in the middle of my killer point, somebody asked their 40th question. Yeah. Right? And then what ends up happening in that moment is I end up being shorter with her. So I'm hurting this relationship, and I end up being more annoyed with them. So I'm hurting both relationships.
And then they're seeing
unhealthy
ways of resolving the conflict.
So I'd say most of our marital stuff, and this is why routine is important, is when you can say at 8 o'clock, our kids won't be awake, right? We know that they'll be down because the exhausting work we put into to get the bedtime consistent means that we can bank on them hopefully more often than not being asleep.
Yeah.
And then have those conversations then. You can gear up for it. You can find that special room for the argument, discussion, debate.
Yeah.
And discuss.
Yeah. I think you need to understand yourselves as well, and also have a perspective together. I think we talked about that too. At some point, I don't remember, at some point when the kids were around, it's just, hey, I don't want to fight in front of them.
Yeah.
And we had to define that because, I think, there's just extremes. You can grow up in a home where the fighting is blatant and all you see is fight. And then you can grow up in a home where you never see conflict, right? Because parents are trying to protect their children from seeing that. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the extremes are not the best. I understand why they happen. I think it's about managing attention of recognizing when it's too much, right? And so have we gotten into conflict in front of our kids? Yeah, probably a little more than we would have wanted to, escalated wise, right? Or been more angry than we wanted to. But I think because of the conversations we've had, we've been able to say, one of us has been able to be like, hey, the kids are here, like, let's handle this later, right?
Can I give one point to that? If it ever escalates, remember the conversation is modeling, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to raise healthy adults. So if it ever escalates more than we'd want it to, we make sure that they get to see how well things have gotten back, like as visible as well, you're not listening to me is they need to also then visibly see, hey, hugging, holding, affection, hey babe, thanks for helping me out. I love you, baby. That's my wife. They need to see that, okay, they've also resolved. There's a
resolution. And or the verbal affirmation that we are okay. So kids are going to react to that, right? So you're having a heated conversation, they're sensing that. So like we've had times where Jonathan will start like la 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 la. There's been like few times that we've gotten into something together in front of them, and you'll start screaming or whatever. Yeah, and so it's kind of helped us be like, okay, this isn't. He's reacting to what he's seeing because he can't explain it. Hey, we're okay, Mom. We're probably just having a discussion right now. Everything's okay. Yeah. And so it gives us the opportunity. And he comes down. He's now given the opportunity to be like, okay, we can talk about this later.
Wow. That's great. This is good stuff. I know, like, a lot of us were just, like, taking notes. Passion fading. I guess this is our
yeah.
We're trying to hold on to you as long as we can, because once this broadcast ends. So, what can you say? So much is going on. There's so much stress, so much tension. You can just get into the mode of just autopilot, just trying to manage life between kids and responsibilities, and the marriage can suffer in the meantime. And it can feel like, it's not what it used to be, back on when we were on campus or when we were whatever it is, right? Yeah. So what can couples do in this season of heightened stress, more responsibility, less time alone because the kids are always home, to help with the passion? The passion is fading.
She just got a fifth mommy, so she's gonna come right back.
Okay.
I'll say this: routine, predictability, and stability. And those routine, predictability, structure, more routine and predictability are two of the best things that help you be a great parent. But they also conspire against passion in your marriage. So I remember we had the conversation where we said some things are problems to be solved and some things are tensions to be managed. This is one that's a tension to be managed. The better everybody knows what to expect. So Nicholas just said a real-time example. So a real-time example is right. We had a conversation before this. Hey, if somebody comes down, if somebody comes down, how are we going to respond? And she'll say, hey, if it comes down, I'm going to get up. And if she struggles, here's where she'll be.
Hi, Sanaya.
Say hi. So I think for us, there's just I think it's a tension to be managed, but you can manage tensions when you know your priorities. And I'm going to say something controversial. God is first. My wife is second. My kids come after my wife. And maybe that's easier for a father to say. I don't know, because I didn't push them from my loins. Hermos, baby girl. But I will say that there's I think when that happens, it's a tension to be managed, but they usually win because they're the louder. Remember, but silence doesn't mean that somebody is content. But she'll be quieter while they'll be like, me. I'm hungry. She never does that to me. Well, she's pregnant now, so she does it now. But prior to pregnant, she never is like, I'm hungry. Feed me, right? So I think there's saying, I'm going to manage the tension, but I'm going to have my priority on the one who's going to be here after they're gone, that I'm going to have a relationship with.
If they're gone for school and for life and get married. Yeah.
They're going to start their own family.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to be staring next to somebody that I hadn't spoken to for 18 years.
Right.
Right. Yeah. What are you again? Oh, you like that? Oh.
Right.
So I think that's.
You talk about spontaneity.
I talked about how Conspire. So speak about spontaneity.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed that.
No, so it's fine. I just want to make sure people caught that. So you said consistency, routine. These things conspire against passion.
Correct.
Okay.
Often.
So now we're speaking about spontaneity.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things, when we first got married is that, you can be spontaneous, right? You surprise each other. There's that natural passion. It was funny. I was reading something that actually said whether, the statistic is true or not, but it was saying that usually after the first 2 years after marriage, usually a passion naturally subsides, right? It's just a natural cycle of reducing. But, one of the things that happens when you have children or in the general trajectory of a relationship is that life happens, right? You get used to your routine. You develop a foundation of, okay, this is what we do. Here's when we do it. And so that naturally reduces the spontaneity, the surprising. It's easier to stop trying to learn who your spouse is, right? And cater to that. And so I think, one of the ways that we've managed that, because, it happened more so once we had children, was to try to bring back the spontaneity. Even if we couldn't, one of the ways we did that was by having date nights. And so one of the things that we did was we alternated who planned the date night. So there was still some element of surprise, even if we did it at home, because we didn't have childcare at the time. It's like, okay, he's planning it. And so there's a little excitement about getting prepared, and there's momentum about getting the kids down on time, and they better be asleep, and making sure that they're real down because we're about to have a date night, So finding ways to be spontaneous again. And it doesn't have to be in the same way that it happened before. No, we can't just pick up and leave for a weekend away just because we feel like it. But there's room for there to still be the element of surprising or being romantic or, I think about this fact. When you have kids, oftentimes when you're in the store, you end up looking at baby items, right? Or things for them. Like, oh, this is a cute pair of shoes. Oh, this is but it's kind of retraining your mind to be like, no, let me think about my spouse. Is there something, he really loves lemonade. I'm just going to stop by Chick-fil-A and grab a lemonade for him. And that's small, but it's still something that's kind of keeping that connection, right? Like, I thought about you. Mm-hmm. And that's what something like that says, right? So that's
absolutely. And I'd say work at it. Continue to fight for it. It's saying think with the end in mind, right? So it's the same thing. They're going to go away to school at some point. and I'm going to be here. We're going to be here together. What kind of relationship do we want to have at that time? So everything we're doing, we understand like, oh, we haven't really spent it. There are times where it's like, oh, wow, it's been a month or two. We didn't have a date night here. Like life just, and the kids had needs that. And then you kind of want to wake up and kind of go, okay, what do we need to do? And the temptation is to use, excuses is the wrong word, but to use reasons why you can't. I have kids, I have a job. Even if you don't have kids, we're COVID, we can't go out, we're on lockdown.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you can't, right? I remember right after our first child was born, couldn't go out for a while, so went to Walmart and got like all these like walking around like everything that glows in the dark from Walmart. Glow in the dark glasses, glow in the dark, everything glows in the dark. And came home and it was like we turned off all the lights, set up all these glow in the dark things on the table, and had like this glow in the dark party with food, right? Kind of ordered in food because I'm not the big cook. She can throw it out, I can't. But then just kind of sat down and we had this great experience that kind of felt light, had music playing as if you were to go to like this modern club, modern dinner kind of
club. Yeah, right.
Yeah, weekend clubbing every weekend, man. You know how the Langdons do it.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's great. That's so encouraging. I think these words right here really capture the essence of our whole time with you, these 3 sessions. I'm just like, I want you guys to continue, but we'll no pressure, I guess. But this has been such an incredible blessing. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the guidance. Thank you for pouring into us. And I know that this is going to be a blessing because it's online. People are going to get a chance to share it and to watch it over again. And I just pray that God will continue to bless the 2 of you, your children, the one on the way. Know that you are in our prayers. Church, I want you to know that this is their ministry. This is part of their ministry where they part of their mission, as we heard in our last session, is to pour into other couples, to better other families. So please continue to keep them in prayer. Pray for them to be blessed, for their faith not to fail, and for God to continue to guide them through the paths of life. So Adrian, Leilani, Sanaya, Jonathan, even though you're not there, but you'll see it eventually. We love you all. We care for you. We are praying for you. And thank you for this time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, E?
Yes.
Can I say this last thing as we depart?
Sure, go for it.
If there's one last thing that we could leave anybody with, I'd want to say this. Tell your children what God told you about them. So first, tell your spouse what God told you about them. Take some time to pray over them, and then make sure you tell your children what God told you about them. And sometimes it may take a while to figure out what that statement, what that line, what that phrase is. But when you find it, even if they're teens now or 25 years old, just when God reveals whatever that is to you, pour it into them and be relentless at it. If you have to say it every morning before you drop them off to school, or before, at lunch when you're eating, or dinner time, or for us it's bedtime. And as she said, Leilani, Sanaya has very strong will as a person, but sometimes that's seen as a bad thing for a girl or for a woman, right? It's kind of like, no, you got to be demure. But I know that not just as a girl, as a female, but also as a female of color, if I take away all of her determination and her will, she's going to have a very tough time in a society like this. So remember, we took some time, we were literally trying to think what to say to them. And for Sanaya, after we got it, for her tonight, she'll probably play me. I don't know. We'll see.
Because they always play you when you're trying to
Sanaya. Before bed, what's the line? It's saying, God gave you?
God gave you purpose.
There we go. So she doesn't have to be weak, but she can direct her strength. So I think, and the fact that she can say it here, for Jonathan, he feels a little more anxious. So for him, we tell him that God made him strong. And these are things that they can just carry with them forever. So find out what God wants you to, what God says about your children, about your spouse, about your family, and then tell it to them relentlessly so they can quote it hopefully on live without embarrassing you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Typically, I close out in prayer. I want to invite one of you to close us out in prayer.
I can pray. Hey, baby girl, we're gonna bow our heads, man. Pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, I want to thank you so much for this time. Lord, I'm asking that every person that's bowing their heads right now or watching the screen or hearing my voice, Lord God, I'm asking for a blessing for them. I'm asking that anything that this time has brought up or stirred or awakened within them, Lord God, that if at the very least, that it be something that causes them to be inspired, to be all that they've been called to be the light in their family, a light in their home, a light at their school, a light in their relationship, a light in their marriage, Lord God. Let them move forward in power, Lord God. That the enemy has armies moving out relentlessly, but many times for us as Christian families and homes, we kind of feel like we have to almost hide out in our house and endure the days, Lord God. But I'm just asking everybody to find their purpose so they can move out and accomplish what they've been put here to do in their families, Lord God. Thank you for this time. Thank you for Cambridge SDA. Bless everything that's happening with this wonderful, wonderful ministry. Let them continue to be a light in their area as well, too, Lord God. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. God bless you. Thank you for being with us. God bless all of you online. Please stay tuned for other events that are upcoming. But Adrian, Leilani, thank you so much once more.
Yes,
all right,
thank
no problem.
you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Take care, boss.
Bye-bye.